The abolition of slavery in Antigua and Barbuda, liberation and its complex legacy in the early 19th century. The twin island nation of Antigua and Barbuda underwent a monumental shift, one that would permanently reshape its social, economic, and political fabric. The abolition of slavery in 1834 marked the end of over 2 centuries of brutal exploitation under British colonial rule, and began a long, complex journey toward freedom, equality, and national identity. While the legal end of slavery was a defining moment in the island's history, the realities of post-emancipation life highlighted the enduring legacies of oppression and inequality, the plantation system and the foundations of enslavement. By the 1700s, Antigua had become one of the most profitable colonies in the British West Indies. Its rich, volcanic soil, warm climate, and strategic location in the Leeward Islands made it ideal for sugarcane production, which soon became the colony's primary export. Sugar was more than a crop, it was a cornerstone of wealth and political power in the British Empire. To sustain this sugar economy, British colonists enslaved thousands of Africans, forcibly bringing them to the islands under the transatlantic slave trade. Enslaved individuals were forced into grueling labor from sunrise to sunset, facing intense heat, brutal punishments, poor nutrition, and little to no medical care. Families were separated, African names and traditions were suppressed, and resistance was met with violence. By the late 18th century, over 90% of Antigua's population consisted of enslaved Africans and their descendants. Despite the risks, enslaved people engaged in various forms of resistance, from work slowdowns and sabotage to open revolts and cultural preservation through storytelling, religion, and music. The abolition movement and immediate emancipation. As the inhumanity of slavery became increasingly visible to the public in Britain, abolitionist campaigns gained momentum, influenced by Christian morality, Enlightenment ideals, and economic shifts. Abolitionists pressured the British Parliament to act. After years of petitions, speeches, and publications, the Slavery Abolition Act was passed in 1833 and took effect on August 1, 1834. Most British colonies were required to undergo a 4-year apprenticeship period, during which freed people continued to work for their former enslavers under conditions resembling slavery. But in a unique move, Antigua's colonial government opted for immediate and full emancipation, driven largely by fear of violent uprisings, and a belief that the black population could be more easily controlled without the resentment that an apprenticeship system would breed. Thus, Antigua became a symbol of hope across the Caribbean, where freedom was declared without transition, a rare and remarkable moment in colonial history. The realities of post-emancipation life. Freedom, however, did not mean equality. The vast majority of land remained in the hands of the white planter elite, and newly freed people had limited economic power or political voice. Landlessness meant that many were forced to return to the same plantations as wage laborers, with few rights and little bargaining power. Their economic dependence was further reinforced by high rents, poor housing, and the lack of access to education or credit. Social structures remained deeply unequal. Racist ideologies persisted, and colonial laws continued to suppress black civic participation. Yet amid these challenges, emancipated Antiguans and Barbudans began to build communities of resilience, founding churches, schools, cooperatives, and cultural associations that would become the backbone of local life. Emancipation's long-term legacy over the decades. The legacy of emancipation remains central to Antigua and Barbuda's evolving identity. Cultural expressions, oral histories, and national commemorations helped keep alive the memory of slavery's horrors and the triumph of its abolition. August 1st is observed annually as Emancipation Day, a time to reflect on the past and celebrate the strength and perseverance of those who endured. Importantly, emancipation set the stage for future movements for political reform, workers' rights, and ultimately independence, which Antigua and Barbuda achieved in 1981. The abolition of slavery is remembered not simply as the end of bondage, but as the beginning of a collective quest for justice, self-determination, and national pride. The abolition of slavery in Antigua and Barbuda was a landmark event that reshaped every aspect of life on the islands. While it did not immediately bring equality, it opened the door for generations of Antiguans and Barbudans to fight for and define their own future. Today, the legacy of emancipation lives on in the nation's culture, politics, and enduring pursuit of dignity and freedom.